What's the most trivial, like I'm talking most ridiculously petty reason that you've had an argument in a relationship?
Very good. What springs to mind instantly, and I can't recall a specific actor, but I'm sure in a relationship gone by that we would have had a feud over, like, she thinks he's a good actor, and I do not think that they're a good actor.
and then it escalates to the point where you're furious.
How can you think he's a good? He just stammers his way through, and you're just like, why
they
are we?
Didn't disparage Cillian Murphy, did they? Oh my God.
No. This was defending Hugh Grant in the 90s.
Oh, well, I mean, I wouldn't call Hugh Grant a good actor, but he warms the cockles of my heart regardless.
See, you can't help it. So something like that. Maybe recently, there's some things in a relationship where your partner will do something and you know in the core of your being that no matter how many times you ask them or tell them or whatever, that they will always keep doing that one thing, and it's just not worth like hitting the roof and having a big deal over it. But my partner, I'm going to dob her in. She so she'll whip the lid off a Vegemite or a peanut butter, and then put the knife straight through the lid, the tin foil. Straight into the thing. She won't peel off the protective foil. Straight through that into the peanut butters and away.
So what?
Lunacy, right?
So
Lunacy.
I will stab the foil in order to peel off the foil because sometimes the peeling mechanism is broken.
I dream for removing the foil, Liz. I dream of that day.
No.
So yes, those little things where it's just like, this doesn't matter in the greater scheme of the universe and our relationship. But of course, yes, we'll have a... That to me seems quite... What was your word in the question?
Petty or insignificant, or the most minor thing that you've had an argument over.
Yeah, so that's pretty minor.
Mine was over the fact that I like Promite instead of Vegemite. So we've both got condiment-based
Did Marmite get a mention?
Marmite doesn't even rate a mention, but I'm a Promite person because Vegemite's far too salty and disgusting. And yeah, I just... a lid was flipped. 'Twas not mine.
And that, this insignificant thing became a huge...
Yeah. And I mean, I guess... Maybe this says a lot about my relationship because there's a few food-based arguments that we had. But I also used to get in trouble for saying, I don't like this food. I don't. And they're like, you didn't try it. I'm like, no, but I have tried it in the past and I am aware.
Yeah, that's wrong. You're allowed to try something and not like it.
And to this day, I still actually will try everything now because I genuinely feel the guilt from...
Oh dear.
I know, it's not great.
It's not wonderful.
So not quite, it's one of those things that seems insignificant at the time, but it was an overarching massive problem. I'm Liz Best. Welcome to Ghosts of Boyfriends Past. Sorry to bum everyone out with my relationship history yet again.
That's okay.
It's
hello,
my personal brand now.
And hello, all. That is a bit of a brand for you, Elizabeth. And getting outraged at other people's stories.
Yes, it's my favourite thing
hear
to
more
do.
of that.
That's why we have a podcast. Tom.
Welcome to a main episode of Ghosts of Boyfriends Past, everybody. We're blessed with a guest once again, and this is a returning guest. I don't know how many times he's been in now, like 3 or 4 times. Three times. Good Lord.
I'm into it.
Must be getting something good out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your man, Alex Smith.
Hello, it's me again.
Hey, Alex. Thank you for coming back
going?
on again. We love it when you come and share stories with us.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
I think the last one you told about was when you were driving to a date with a car full of water.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that relationship is still good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So you're going to have to go back and listen to the context of that story because I'm not going to give you any more of that. Just picture it. Car full of water.
Your third time back behind microphone, Alex. Is it cathartic? Is it freeing to really tell your story? Or is it just they asked me and I'm back?
All of the above.
I like that.
The wonderful thing of having BPD is multiple unstable relationships.
Hooray!
Yes.
Which sounds like multiple tales of hilarity to me.
Yes.
Content.
We always say every bad date's a good story.
Yes, we are podcast hosts that have a show to run, so we're allowed to celebrate other people's...
Because if you don't laugh, you're going to cry about it.
Yes,
And nobody wants that today.
So welcome back. You... Alex is a returning guest, so he's gone through the rules so many times already on this here show. But we do have to air them for various reasons. And rule number 1 on this show is an alias, please, for the people or persons you were talking about today.
Yes.
That tumbles into rule 2, so that you Columbus at home who put together who Alex is and who they're talking about today, there's no doxing, sharing of information. Keep your pitchforks sharpened, but they're not necessary here. All right, we'll use them in the future as a society, I'm sure, but not here for this story. And rule number 3, Alex, on air, on microphone, no rule, no rules.
I love it.
That's right. Well, I've
been Tom Harris. Thank you very
I was
much.
filming that for my 1 second a day, so I have it on record.
This has been
no rules.
This has been really fun. I hope the new host all the best on this show. No threats on microphone, please, Alex.
Oh,
no threats.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the kind of person I am.
Yeah,
Yes,
you strike me as a threatening someone on mic kind of guy, Alex.
Brand new rule just for you. But that's it. We got a premise. We got a guest. We got some rules. I'm going to relax. I'm just going to sit here.
Yeah.
I think. Where do you want to take us from, Alex?
Where situate us?
Well, I was going to talk about, because I feel it's important for the listeners, because the listeners are like, oh, Alex has come to the table with this story. I was going to talk about a much more hectic relationship, but I was concerned that people around the relationship may have, like, not the person it was about, but like one of their friends, and then they are mentioned in it, and then that it's not who you think it is. But I thought
I literally had no name in my brain just then.
But I thought it'd be a whole thing, and I was like, no, that's scary. So now I'm telling a different story, and I don't want the audience to be like, why did he feel the need to come on and just like? But it's like, oh no, it's just because I'm scared.
So look, coming on the podcast can sometimes be a little bit scary, but Alex, should you wish to chat off mic about this story, we can strategize ways that we can make it less scary for all involved.
And I'll just quickly jump in and defend Alex. Whenever someone has the bravery to come on to a podcast and tell a story about their life, that's on them. We can't ask for, all right, you've got a dirty, filthy story, let's have it. No, when they're ready to share it, they share it. So we never want to pressure our guests.
Our ghosts. I love it.
Our guests. No, don't want to pressure them, leave them be.
So yes, and if anyone's listening, just before we get into Alex's story, if you are a little bit worried about a particular story, but you think it's important, we can do all kinds of things. We can de-identify you. You can write me in dot points and I can read it out. We've even strategized with somebody else that she can put on an accent and pretend she's from somewhere completely different, completely desituate it and change all the... There's ways, man. We can if it's a lesson that people need to learn and hear about, we can fix it so that no one will know who you're talking about. Alex, new story.
This is the story of Melbourne Lady.
Ah, cool. Hi, Melbourne Lady.
So the year is a different year to the current year.
Great.
It is the past. It is after the big first awful relationship I spoke about on the show.
Right.
After another one I intend to talk about, but before the nice one I'm in currently.
Okay.
And I posted a TikTok because I'm a musician. I'm your man, Alex Smith, on Bandcamp, Spotify, and iTunes. And also on TikTok.
We'll let you plug all of that at the end for sure.
Well, thank you. And I didn't realize at the time, I was just curious, but it was a thirst trap TikTok.
Oh.
And the thing is like, on the count of 4, you look up as if someone said your name, and that's your like responding face. And so I was like, I wonder if I have like a shitty face when I look up when people call my name, because I am not always aware of what I'm doing with my face and body.
I feel like mine would be like, what? Like
Fuck
really like
off, yeah.
really like, what are you bothering me with?
Yep,
Fuck off.
exactly.
Like I've got yeah.
So I posted it, and funnily enough, the audio has been removed now. So now there's just this weird silent picture of me looking up going, oh, hey. And someone commented something.
Okay.
I can't even remember what the comment was.
Okay.
But ever the entrepreneur that I am, I can't remember what they said or how I got to it, but I was like, oh, if you like my music, you should follow me on Spotify and blah, 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 and I'm on Instagram and stuff. I can't remember why.
Always be hustling.
Always be hustling. And they took me up on it and looked at my Instagram and stuff. And then we just started getting to talking. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, she was like, this might sound crazy, but do you want to have like a Zoom date?
That's not crazy. That's very, well, these days, that's what happens.
Yeah.
COVID's a thing still.
Yeah.
Despite what everybody else says.
It was much more of a thing at the time as
Yes.
well. It was definitely a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, sure. Actually, no, before that, I should say, we were talking and then it led to kind of sexy talking.
Hot.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, can I add you on Facebook? And I was like, yeah, sure. Because I'm ancient.
I still have Facebook, but Facebook's the one that I only ever add people that I know to. I'll add anybody else to any other service, but Facebook I gatekeep.
Yeah, that's a good way to
Yeah.
be. But we were having a chat and we were, it was slowly becoming a sexual thing. And I think she was like, oh, what if I do this? And
Ooh.
And I had been, as someone in the music scene, reading countless terrible stories of people being awful. So I was like, I'm going to pump the brakes on this because I'm worried that this might be like an abuse of power because you found me online and I think maybe you've got like an inflated sense of who I am. So I'm just going to pump the brakes on this because it feels a little icky. And she was like, that's fair.
Yes,
And,
I feel that is a smart decision
Yep,
also.
absolutely.
Yeah. Also, she is from Melbourne. And at that point, I don't know if I was aware of it, but I later became aware of like, oh, this is someone from like across the country. I was going to say across the world.
Across
It's
the
like, not
world.
that far.
Nope, we live in that country.
Yeah. But then, we started just kind of chatting and becoming buds. And I discovered that she was 35, which at the time was 6 years older than me.
Okay.
And up until then, I had been dating people who are my age or younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, right, well, that didn't work. Maybe this is it. Or,
Yeah.
right, that didn't work. And I had come out of a relationship which had gone like, there was the big, terrible relationship. The laughably terrible relationship after that where I was like, again, what the fuck? And then this one where it was like, those people seemed to hate me being me. This person seems to like me being me.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe,
it's encouraging on the surface at least, or at the beginning to look at it. Yeah,
and like it's also like an interesting story, and like who am I to if whimsy and opportunities and stuff, and maybe this is some cool fate thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to shut down opportunities. So I was like, oh, I'll see where this is going, and we talked a bit, and yeah, we started becoming familiar with each other, and we never really put a label on it. But she was like, hey, I'm coming up to Brisbane.
So you'd had the Zoom date.
Then we had a Zoom date.
Right.
She was like, hey, can we have like a Zoom date and just chat a bit?
Just because of the fact that I am very conscious that whenever I meet somebody online, and I know that you can deep fake this shit now, but back in the old days, having a video chat with somebody was sort of a way to verify that they were who they said they were. I don't know all about AI and what they can make faces and voices do now, but I mean, it's still good policy.
Yeah. I will say every stage where it progressed, I felt like she was progressing it.
Right.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah. You were yes-ending the whole relationship.
I was like, let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
And so we had a Zoom date, and I was like, yeah, you got a nice vibe. Because sometimes you're on Hinge and you're like, they seem nice. And then you'll do like their voice chat and they'll be like, and you're like, oh, I did not get your vibe through the images and text, but now I do. But she had a nice vibe. And I was like, yeah. And so we were chatting, we were becoming close. And then a few weeks in, I think maybe 1 month in, quite early, she was like, oh, I have a friend who's getting married in Brisbane. So I'm coming up for the weekend to stay in Effie Pepper's.
Okay. Just so happens to be where our little studio is located.
I didn't want to dox you.
It's okay. We can't even get up here sometimes. The security is so
Yeah,
good.
no one in the world wants to assassinate a podcaster either. I'm pretty safe.
But she was like, did you want to meet up in person? Because, if we're going to be doing a long distance thing, then, usually what kills it is you date for a year and then you meet up and then you realize that you don't mesh. So did you want to meet up early? And I was like, yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, let's figure out if we mesh and if we're investing our time into something worthwhile.
And I was like, don't you want to spend time with your friend at their wedding? She's like, well, I don't really like that friend very much. So I'm fine. I was like, but aren't you coming up for their wedding?
Yes.
And of course, now I'm like, she obviously just said that to come and meet you, you fucking dingus.
There was no wedding. Right?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say, but I was.
but I was like, what about your friend's wedding? But she came up And also, like, I'm all for, because I am a broke little fuck. And she was like, I'll pay for the whole thing. You know,
You're
I'm
like,
coming
"Great."
up. Yeah. And I was like,
Your shout, I'm
I
in.
was like, I can be a sugar baby for a weekend. Fuck yeah. So she came up and we talked on the phone a lot for hours every night. And I remember I was talking on the phone with her right up until I saw her, because I was driving to her and was like, oh yeah, I'm just parking. And then we were talking, and then she got off the ferry and I was like, oh, hey. And then we hung up and there she was, and it was nice.
Cute.
And we had a hug. And I was all antsy because I'm someone who, if it's like, yeah, we're going to go to this place, I can't relax until I'm at the place.
Yeah.
Yes, get to the place where I'm going to be,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you can enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Then you can relax.
Yeah.
Yes, gotcha.
That's why I like meeting people at the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but she was like, oh, my flight's at blah, and they don't let us in until this time.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm going to be here for like a couple hours. And she was like, why don't we go to the library?
place.
And then we can go to Goma. And
That's Gallery of Modern Art
Oh,
for
yeah.
anybody who's not in Queensland.
we were walking around, and I could feel it was a little tense. But like, I was very aware of like, I don't want to lead this person on, because it is, you know, a month in. We have been talking a lot exclusively. But like, this is a month in. And it's
But
not,
also,
Yeah.
it's day 0 because you just met.
yeah.
And also, I would hazard a guess, because you start long distance, that long distance feels different, can feel different. Like, it's not a real relation. It's not a real thing that's going on. And then suddenly, the proximity to you.
Yeah.
So the whole dynamic suddenly changes on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, for me, the clock was ticking when we were a real people in the same space. And yeah, and it was nice. And I could feel that there was like attention. I could tell that she was very anxious. And she had a big insecurity about her age,
Okay.
because she was older than me. And I never really fed into that, because that'd be a shitty thing. Like, sometimes you can joke about stuff, but when someone's just like, I'm very insecure about this thing,
Yeah.
then you don't joke about that. But I could tell that she was feeling insecure as, like, you know, an older person who had come to meet me. And it was, yeah. So we sat down at Goma, and I was very tired, and I was feeling very overstimulated, because I'm a little autistic bean. And I was like, is it okay if I put my head on your leg? And she was like, yeah, that'd be nice. And I was about to, and I was like, now, if I do this, I feel like this is locking us into a relationship, but we're on a concrete floor, and my head will be cold and hard on the floor, and she's
So
sitting
you
down and we're sitting down.
You logicked your way into this.
Yeah. But I was like, no, it'll be fine. No one thinks about stuff as much as I do. So then I lay with my head on her leg. And then later she was like, when you put your head on my leg, that was when I knew everything was fine and that we were in a relationship. It's like,
No.
But we went to the hotel and we unpacked, and then we dilly-dallied for about 20 minutes, and then we had the obligatory sex.
The
Yes.
obligatory.
Obligatory.
The obligatory. We did it.
Yeah, and I should point out as well that I'm asexual. So that's not me being like, of course we had to have sex. Like, this was when I was kind of discovering my asexuality, and I've later learned a phrase which is so useful and so true, where it's like, you know, why do people who are asexual have sex then? It's like, because sex is often a passageway to the affection that you do want.
Right.
Which is
Okay,
like
yeah.
the cuddling and the closeness and all that stuff. But normies need the sex.
Right.
So you kind of like, all right, then we have the sex, and then we get to the blah. Also, at the time, I was identified as demisexual.
Right.
And I-
Which explain that to our listeners.
that's you don't feel sexual attraction unless you have a strong romantic connection. Oh, I don't know if it has to be romantic, but a strong connection to someone.
Huh, maybe I'm that.
Yeah.
I
Right?
don't know. Maybe.
And I was like, oh, in the past, I've only
So I have
ever...
to like know someone. I don't
Yeah.
have one night stands because
No,
I
neither.
need to be keen on them first.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Maybe I'm that.
Maybe.
Maybe. I'll research it.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
But we had the sex, and odd choice on her part. She was like, "Oh, you do it just like my ex did. He was autistic,
No.
and he did it the same way
no.
every time. It was so boring."
You know,
Oh,
yeah, that's
it
not.
just kept getting worse.
And I was like, "Thanks, babe." But yeah, then the tension was gone after that. There was like do we like each other, and blah, blah, blah. And we had some sex, and then we just hung out, and it was a nice weekend, and we went to the spa, and we cuddled, and I think we watched a movie, and we drank, and it was nice. It was a nice time.
Yeah, it sounds it.
And then she went back to Melbourne. And, you know, there's a teary goodbye at the airport, because also I'm like a fucking duck, and I imprint on people when I have sex with them. Oh. I'm like, now I have feelings for you.
Oh, right.
I cannot have a casual thing.
You just catch feelings. Yeah.
I think as well, because for me, sex is such this is not a thing I do because I want to.
Yeah.
I'm doing this.
Hey, look, I've got a couple of friends who pretty much say that they don't have one night stands because they fall in love with their bits.
Oh, yes.
Like through their bits, or they all of a sudden they're just like, oh, I love you now. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So when she flies back to Melbourne, is it a relationship that you two have now forged, or are you still? Is it a label? Have you labeled it? I suppose, or is it free and fresh and easy?
We're not Facebook official yet.
The most most important,
important
summit to climb to.
Not so much these days,
No.
old man.
But I think, we felt like, oh, now we're exclusive.
Well, shit, compared to you put your head on her leg and she's like, we're it, and you had sex with her and you're like, okay, we're it. Like, you both had very different measures, but both of you were like, the threshold has been crossed.
Yeah. We were like, we have not said, will you be my boyfriend, girlfriend, but we are both.
Do people still do that?
I do. I fear it clears stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and that it should be a discussion that's had, but I just don't know whether it happens or whether...
I didn't use that language of "will you now be my official girlfriend," but to get like a date on, like an anniversary date, I asked a similar question, like, do you want to make this now an official or something like that? So but no, not "will you be my girlfriend."
I gotta say, like, I met a friend of mine's partner probably about, I want to say 4 or 5 weeks after they started dating. And this guy's in his 50s. And I was like, so are you guys boyfriend, girlfriend or what? And the look on his face was like, oh, well, we haven't discussed it. But like, yeah, I think like, yeah. Like, I just think that he wasn't used to using the words. And I just was like, put him on the spot straight away. So sorry about that, buddy.
But
anyway, yes. So teary, plain, goodbye.
Yeah. We had a connection for sure.
Yeah.
And I felt close to her, and we are exclusive. If one of us dated another person, we'd be understandably upset.
Okay.
Because we have a connection now.
Sure.
And I was telling mum and dad, like, I have a girlfriend in Melbourne. And I felt like she fell in a lot quicker with me because I was... And this was the relationship that taught me, like, bro, you're in your late 20s / early 30s. Things are different now. And I was taking it at like a 20-year-old pace of like, let's see if this works. And so I was like, that was nice. I saw her for 48 hours. It was nice.
Yeah.
And we continued to talk. And I think she really fell for me a lot. And that sounds so fucking wanky to say. But I felt the affection from her was strong and evident and frequent.
Yeah. Well, like people in our 30s, we know what we want. So we just go, all right, cool.
Yeah. And are you commenting on this during the relationship? Are you recognizing it at the time that or are you retroactively looking back and going, oh, she was much ahead. So at the time, you don't know that she's ahead of you.
No.
Right. Gotcha.
I'm like, we're just two people feeling it up.
Yeah.
And she became a $25 patron of mine. And she said, I didn't want to do it before anything happened because I didn't want you to feel manipulated.
That's nice.
Which I appreciate. But she did drop $250 on me because it
that
was a
feels
year-long
like you're being
subscription.
paid for.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So that happened.
Having said that, if I ever date someone and you want to donate to my Patreon, please do. We still got to set that up.
I was absolutely like... I think if she had more malicious intent, I'd be like, oh, paid for a weekend in a hotel, $250. This feels kind of love bomby.
Yeah.
She also bought me... Oh, no, we'll get to that.
Okay.
But so we did that for a while. And then she was like, you should come down to Melbourne.
Okay.
Or did she come back up to Brisbane again first?
Semantics.
I think she came back out to Brisbane and we hung out again. This time it was at my house or maybe a different house. But I know that she was in my house at one point. And she met my family. My family loved her.
course they did.
which made it really tough because I was
Yeah,
like, I'm just trying to be like impartial and see if this is working.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we love her. She's the best girlfriend you've ever had.
I recommend not introducing anyone to your family unless you're willing to hear we love them.
Yeah.
Yes, it's probably a
But
very
perhaps
good piece
before
of advice.
you're ready to hear we hate them, because that's important to hear too.
But then after that, she was like, you got to come to Melbourne.
Of course.
And I was like, I have no money. Like, I have no money. I would love
I'm
to.
a musician.
Yeah. Like, I'll save up and I'll do it. And she was like, nah, come down. And I think I paid for my flights because I was like, I cannot let you pay for my flights.
Right.
So I paid for my flights, which was a lot
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Flights are
and-
expensive, man.
Yeah, and she was like, "But I'll pay for your food and everything while you're down here." And I was like, "Well, that's a very kind. It's not even a happy medium because you're doing the most of the paying right there. So thank you very
I
much."
don't know. I feel like, how long did you stay for?
Like a week.
Yeah, a week of food is about a flight,
Mm.
maybe.
Mm.
Anyway,
But I
sorry, I derailed that.
no, you're okay.
So you went to Melbourne, you saved up, get to Melbourne on the flight that you paid for,
Yeah.
but she's feeding you.
Yeah. So I get there, and I think that was kind of what did it all for me because I realized how different people we are. For starters, there was like the age gap, which obviously it isn't a make or break thing for everybody, but for me, it was something I noticed and she often commented on.
Did she have a real grown-up house?
No.
Okay.
No, that's the thing. It was like a 1-bedroom, like, and then a small bathroom. It was really tiny.
Oh,
Tiny,
see, I
tiny
thought
house.
you were going to get there and she was going to be like a full real adult. And you were like, oh, shit. Because I know that when I've dated full real adults, even though I am technically a full real adult, I go, okay.
But one of my favorite pieces of advice from Elizabeth on this show was not necessarily an age difference, but stage difference. She might have been at a different stage to you, and that's
Yeah.
what you're noticing. She wants a family or a more committed thing, X, Y, Z. And you're subconsciously noticing those kind of things and what
And-
she puts out.
And that was it. Like for a start, she was working full time, and so she was like, "What are you going to do while I'm at work?" I was like, "Well, hey, you invited me here." So.
I shall be a kept man at home.
Yeah. Well, I was like, I'm going to wander the streets of Melbourne like a lost dog, and I did. And I was like, Melbourne kind of sucks. You can walk around the CBD in 20 minutes.
I love Melbourne, don't you dare. I would have taken the week off if I were her.
Yeah,
Like,
you'd think so.
yeah, or at
But
least
she
a
did
couple
not.
of days.
No,
Nope, she just wanted a little doggy at home.
yeah,
No, sorry, that's terrible. You're not a dog, but
thank you.
yes.
But I checked out Melbourne, and I'm very loosey goosey. As you can tell by like this whole relationship, I was like, let's just see how it goes. So
Right.
I didn't have any plans, and she was like, she wrote the itinerary
Oh no.
of the week, including my flights, my arrival time. You'll get a taxi from here to here. You'll do this, and then we're gonna have coffee and tea with my friends on this day, and then we'll have the barbecue with my other friends on this
No.
day. Then we'll go to the Melbourne Museum.
No, I already have hives.
And it was a lot. And she was like, "You don't seem like you're enjoying this." And I was
Where
like, "I'm not like a great itinerary guy. Like, you know."
I'm a happy medium between like, let's plan some things, but be loosey goosey the rest of the time.
Where
you
it,
know what I mean?
Where it clashes for me is the working full time while you're still down there. So she's got Monday to Sunday all planned out, but for 8 hours every day during the week, I'm going to be gone. So entertain yourself. But then when I'm back, there's all these plans
You've
and
got to be
schedules.
on my schedule.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
it's just
Whiplash.
there's a clash there. Mm.
And I just really like Melbourne is the New York of Australia. I was
I
like,
love
I'm
New
so
York too.
excited to go
Yeah.
to Melbourne because like I'm not going to be able to go to New York really in the future, but Melbourne,
Yeah.
it's the arts capital of Australia. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to go there.
Yeah.
And I got there and I found that it wasn't quite what I had expected. I loved the trams. I feel like it's what
trams.
everyone says about Melbourne.
Yeah.
But like the house that she was staying in was very small, which is fine. But like we went to this house that I felt like everywhere was falling apart or graffitied. There were cracks in the walls. You could see
Oh,
through
I
all
know
the
what
buildings.
suburbs you went to.
Yeah, well, that was the suburbs I was in. But she was like, we're going to go visit my friends who are surprisingly big celebrities. I can't say who they are.
No,
But
you absolutely can't. But off mic, you better believe I'm hitting you up.
surprisingly large celebrities. So Shaq, who else is really large?
No, stop, get out, you're fired.
But we were walking through the house and they were like, yeah, the owner is going to give it to them when they're done. It's worth like $1.25 million, this house that they're in. I was like, oh, I'm keen to see it. And it was like a corridor, a fucking bedroom.
Oh, a long terrace house, like the railway car apartments. Yeah, I love them.
And I was like, oh, I noticed that you got like a big split in all the bricks and I can see outside your $1 million house. And everyone's like, yeah, it's really bohemian and cool. And I was like, I hate this. This is so pretentious.
You know that's here in Brisbane now, right?
I hate that as well. But, and I remember I was talking about it on a tram loudly and I could feel all the Melbourne people being like, and she was like, you just don't get it. It's just the vibe. It's art. And it's like, I'm not going to pay $1 million to stay in a fucking house with cracks in the walls. This is bullshit.
Welcome to Australia in 2023, my friend.
I love it. I love this fucking
I still
energy.
remember when I lived in Sydney that an apartment near me sold for $1.32 million and it had no floor.
What?
Yeah,
I
because
hate
it was in
that.
Ashfield.
Good.
It had good bones.
Yes, indeed, quite. Now, Alex, as you're walking around Melbourne going, this is shit, I hate that, this is rubbish, fuck off, do you reckon there's any chance that you were stressed or worried or upset with the relationship you had found yourself, and you were just taking it on Melbourne, or did Melbourne actually get your ire, and rightfully so?
Nah, I think...
I got to take you back to, like, I'm not paying for it. You can pay for it. But we got to go back to Melbourne. I got to show you the good places.
I hope you do.
I have family members, hello Charlotte, in Melbourne who listen. And, Melbourne is good. Melbourne is lovely. Melbourne is where my heart is.
I didn't see good Melbourne.
No.
They took me to a bar. I was like, oh, it's the tinfoil bar. And they called it that because all the walls, the wallpaper had been stripped down and like the silver insulation was everywhere. And everyone was
like a health
this is
hazard,
so
though.
cool and blah, blah, blah. I was like, this is stupid and boring and expensive.
And I hate
Depending, if you're hanging with artsy people in Melbourne, like not just people who like arts, but artsy people, there is a difference. They're giant wankers.
So wanky. Like, that was the thing that, like, I'm saying like so much, I'm sorry. There was a lot of things that were a problem. One of the ones that are just kind of, it ate at me and isn't like a real deal breaker is that the pretentiousness. And I can't stand hipsters and pretentiousness. And she was like, what movies do you like? I was like, well, I'm enjoying Marvel and stuff. And she's like, oh, I can't stand Marvel and big blockbusters. They're all the same. And to quote the College Humor video, so are sunsets and rainbows, but they're still interesting to look at. And like, I get it, Marvel fatigue, yada, yada. And I was like, well, what films do you like? And she was like, I only watch Chinese science fiction.
No, that's
In
niche
absolute
wankery.
seriousness.
Where's the button? Which one's the button, Zane? I forget.
Quite
Blue?
steep.
Yeah. Like, I'm all for liking art house cinema, which I thought you were going to say, but like specifically, no, that's too niche.
And there was...
Especially if you only watch that.
Yeah. And I was like, well, what music do you like then? She's like, oh, I like this Russian band. And what else do you listen to?
Just the
I was like,
one?
just this Russian band. And I was like, you have made being indie your whole thing.
Right.
Right.
And you are so insistent on being like a hipster artist person. And I hate that because I do fucking sweat.
You're like,
blood
I
and
am what you
tears.
pretend to be.
Yeah. I fucking work my shit kicker job to live in my hovel to make my art. And so expensive. And anyway, it's fine. That's something that annoys me. But during the week, she was talking about her ex, and she was like, "Oh, it fell through because he didn't want kids, and that's why it ended." And we had talked about it before, and I was like, I thought that he didn't want kids, and that was one of many reasons that it ended because you kept trying, and then it kind of fell apart. And she's like, "No, it's because he didn't want kids. I want kids, and that's a deal breaker for me."
And she's mid-30s.
Yeah, and like. I can't even imagine what kind of
The
pressure
female
that
body is bullshit. Let me put it out there right now. The fact that it puts an absolute time limit on who we have to select.
Yeah.
It's fucked.
Yeah. And so I'm there in this woman's house, and I'm like, I don't know if I want kids, and I don't know if I want them with you. Like, we only just met, really.
Yeah.
And
Shit.
she teared up a little bit and was like, let's not talk about this right now.
Oh,
And then we continued our holiday.
Oh no!
dear.
I can feel the walls.
Yeah,
just
does
going
everyone
up
else
and
have that
the
secondhand
prickly-
anxiety, that sort of secondhand?
But that was like towards the end, so it was fine. As in the end of the holiday.
as fine as it could be.
Yeah. But, like, aside from that as well, and I recognize that to her, I'm the bad guy in this story because I feel like I wasted her time. And I guess maybe I did because I wasn't living like a 29-year-old. I was living like a fucking 20-year-old. But we went to the art museum and she showed me off to all her friends. And all her friends looked at me weird, like, because she was like, I'm the baby in my group. So all these fucking 40-year-old pretentious dinguses. And then...
Do not speak... like, I'm not in my 40s, but do not speak disparagingly of people who are.
That's true. That's true. It was just... The energy is so different.
I guess that when you're in your mid-20s, hanging out with 40-year-olds feels fucked.
Yeah. Like, you know, they're like, oh, we're going to go hang out at our friend's house. And they cooked us kale, fucking, and look at all this fancy stuff. Aren't we artists? And they talk about their
So you had like a proper wanker dinner party.
So wankery. And like, the people watching can't see me.
Was there food on toothpicks at some point? Yeah, I figured there would be.
And wine.
Yeah.
Fucking popped wine. Like, you might
Did
not
they
be
tell you
able to...
about the wine? Did they tell you about the notes in the wine?
Of course.
It's got a mouth feel that's
Tannins.
like, I don't know. I don't know wine.
I cannot stand pretentiousness. I watched a video that made me really mad today. It was like, oh, Messina, you know, people are saying, why does this Viennetta cost $120 when we can get it for $8 at Woolies? It's like, well, it takes a team of 7 people 5 weeks to make 200 of these. And it's like, yeah, but why does it cost $120? It's fucking Viennetta. God damn it. It's just ice cream. Why? Fuck. It makes me so angry, especially in the fucking society we're living in at the moment where stuff's going through the roof.
But I'm also like, pay the ice cream workers a fair wage, Alex.
Pay the ice cream workers a fair wage.
So
but the company should pay the ice cream workers a fair wage.
And they do that by charging $120 for a Viennetta with like some kind of delicious center.
I can't stand it. But I go back to Brisbane.
Okay.
And she was like, I was sad that you didn't have any nice clothes when you met my friends, so I bought you some nice clothes and I sent them to you.
Good.
And I was like, oh, that's nice.
That's a judgment call in a gift. That's
did
not
feel that way.
Nice.
And it's odd that we were still together after that, because I know it was definitely after that.
And you can totally buy a partner clothing. You are allowed to like
but you
influence
don't
how they
backhand
dress.
it
You're
by
allowed
saying,
to, but make it.
I was sad that you didn't look nice in
Yeah.
front of my friends, so here's a spruce up, boyo. Like, no.
You're totally allowed to go, I was shopping and I saw this jacket
And
and
I thought of you.
That's
Yeah,
the line
that's
you want.
how you do it.
Kibang, kabong. But no, not you look like shit and I want you to
So
look
I'm
better.
fixing you.
It
Here
was
you
just
go.
Op Shop t-shirts as well. It was like, you ain't got no clothes. Here they are. And it was a kind thing to do.
It's a very Melbourne thing to do, to buy you something from an op shop, can I say?
But for some reason we kept talking.
It's because she shut out of her brain. Like, as soon as she shut that conversation down, she put that in her, I'm going to lock this away and we're not talking about it because this is an inconvenient truth for me.
The having kids conversation.
Yeah.
And I suddenly became very aware of the fact of, you know, I am wasting this person's time.
Good on you for having that thought, though, because a lot of people are willing to just completely date somebody right up until the point when
And
they're like,
enjoy
are we having children or not?
Yeah.
And then it explodes.
And you could have kept on taking her gifts, her money, her time, you know, so you could have kept on doing that. So you didn't. That's good.
Well,
Well, so
we don't know that yet.
Yes.
I mean, she sent them to me.
Yeah.
I didn't ask.
That's right.
But I think I was like, you know, we kind of had a bit of a conversation while I was in Melbourne and we kind of put a stopper in it. Should we take the stopper out? Should we talk about that? Mm-hmm. And then eventually she was like, you know, do you want to have kids? And I was like, I don't know. I've always been open to having kids. I wanted to have kids with someone that I've known for maybe 5 years of my life, maybe someone I'm married
got that
to.
much time. No.
Yeah. And she's like, well, I want to have kids within like the next year or two. And like, you don't have to say yes or no, but I need to know whether you're going to know within the next like 2 weeks or like a month or something. Some very short amount of time to make a forever decision.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I always in those situations err on the side of safety and be like, I'm going to say no because I don't want to say yes and then
Yes, you made the right.
and then ruin however many lives, like hers and whatever poor person is brought into this world. And then I'm like, I resent you because I didn't want to have you.
Yeah.
And it fucking sucked because we had a connection, albeit like a blossoming connection.
Yeah, but again, it's that whole age difference versus stage difference. Like, you can't mold someone, and I feel like we had this in our last main episode as well, you can't mold someone into the person that you wish they were for the spark to be valid.
I really felt that was happening as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shame, I think, when a connection or a relationship just doesn't have the legs
Timing
or the timing
is
doesn't
everything.
work.
Yeah.
That's a shame. That's
There's
really
a couple of
unfortunate.
people there's one main person in my past who, like, I honestly think that if we had met each other at a different time, I'd probably be married right now. Honestly, like, it's just timing is everything.
So yeah, sometimes life throws you up these instances where there's no bad guy, there's no good guy, there's just poor timing or poor. Or
well, I
whatever
feel
it
like
is.
Melbourne is the bad guy in this story.
Melbourne, and
or house prices.
or pretentiousness.
Well, I also, because I told her, I was like, for us to be together, like, I can't do long distance forever. Like, and
One
I'm sure
of
she
you's got to
probably also
move,
could.
and she
One
wasn't
of us
gonna.
has to move.
It wasn't going to be her.
And she loved her city.
Yeah.
And I was indifferent to mine. But all my stuff is here.
Yeah.
At the time I was like, all my connections are in Brisbane.
You loathed Melbourne slightly more than you loathed Brisbane.
Yeah. The thing is, I feel like I could happily have lived the life that she was introducing me to. Like, meeting up with close friends and having, home cooked meals and going out to art shows and all that stuff. I'm just not quite there yet. I'm hanging out with young friends and doing art things rather than talking about them as if I'm going to one day.
Being patrons of the arts, with joining your Patreon.
Yeah. And I think
That was a very indicative way of the way that relationship was unfolding, that she
Yeah.
was being your wealthy patron.
it really felt that way. I think sometimes you meet people and sometimes you date people when you're an art person and people want to be art people so bad and they sink their hooks into you and you're like, now I'm an art person because I'm around this creative person. And it's like, you're not, though.
I can hardcore relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's one of my exes who 100% dated me because I was so creative and so, exciting, and I was so emotional, and I felt feelings, and they were a rock of a human. And so they were like, this is so exciting. And then that became all of the shit that they resented me for and tried to change. They're like, you need to be less sensitive. I'm like, I thought that was what you liked about me, that I have emotions as opposed to your lack of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we broke up.
Ugh.
But we're like, but we'll still be buds.
No.
And I was working on a very big, ambitious project, which I was having to pay $2,000 a month for over a period of about a year. And that was fucked. And I had a big organizational thing happening to raise funds for it. And she was helping me with that still, which I really appreciated because that's like what she does. And I do attribute like the majority of the success of that to her.
Good.
Because also she was just really good at what she did, which was like working with artists to achieve their goals. And I worry that maybe I was getting more out of her in that aspect. I felt like I was using her.
I guess that once you put the boundary down of not being together, it's then up to her to choose whether she wants to continue to support you, knowing that you're not going to reciprocate in a romantic way. So
And I think
don't beat yourself up too much about that.
I think you're allowed to question. I think you're allowed to ask yourself those questions. Am I asking a lot of this person? Am I taking too much? But if you can't control how much they're giving, how much the other person is willingly putting forward either, so you don't grapple, I think, with that too much.
Yeah.
If she's giving the money and giving time and offering it all forward.
So how did this peter out then? Are you still buds?
No.
Oh.
So, it ended up, I felt like she kept me around so that she could say how well she was doing.
Right.
She was like, well, I hear that Gatesy from Tripod's single now, so maybe I'll, get in there. And I was like, okay, yeah, go for it. You're single, time's running out, apparently. You seem freaked out, so go for it. And I think she was trying to get a rise out of me.
Right.
But she never did, so I think she just kept going. She'd talk about, like, different people in the Melbourne scene being like, I could do this. Or like, I did this thing and I'm going to fuck this guy. I can fuck whoever I want now. And I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't have been fucking me. I'm
Yeah.
asexual.
Yeah.
Get your rocks off, I guess.
Yes.
Do that, do all that stuff you like to do.
Do the sex with people.
Yeah, go have all the sex. And then I even though it ended, I still had a connection with her. And I have big rejection sensitivity and abandonment issues. And when I form a big connection with people, I hate losing them. And I was trying to keep the friendship good. And then I think I was trying to get the relationship going. Because just because I didn't want a baby in that second didn't mean I didn't want to date her. You know, I had a moment of rationality and was like, we should not do this because I don't want a baby. But then, you
don't drop feelings. My feeling on that particular subject. Oh, I'll tell you that in lessons learned. Yes, continue.
But I felt like she was pulling away. I felt like she was pulling away because I can sense she's trying to make this start up again. And she dropped stuff like, oh yeah, all my friends really hated you. When I met them, when you met them, I tried to sell them to you, but they all thought you were really shitty. And I was like, that was an odd thing to tell me. Why'd you tell me that?
That's no good.
That's mean.
That's not on.
Just trying to get rises out of you.
Yeah. But ultimately, I was like, I need to stop trying to instigate this. Maybe. Because also I felt like, okay, so when I try to get close to her, she pulls back. I don't want to lose this friendship, this connection. So what I will do is, instead of just being like, there's nothing here, we're fine. I was like, I sent her a message that was, I actually, I can read it. I can read it to you.
Ooh, a live message reading here on the show. Scrolling.
Okay. I feel like you would be relieved to know I had a date tonight. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like you felt trapped wanting to be friends, and I was being romantic, so this would take the pressure off. And then she said, glad you had a good night. I didn't talk for a long time. And then I was like, everything okay? You seem a little not great. And she sent a big paragraph that was like, this was fucked. I didn't want to hear this. In nicer words.
Yeah.
I was like, I know you have big abandonment issues, so I'm not going to abandon you, but like I have every right to walk away from this.
You're not dating, and she's talking about all the dudes she's fucking.
She's like, but I won't because I know that would really hurt you, and I know you because I also talked to her about all
I
the
feel like when you say, I could do this, but I'm not going to, you've done the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then she didn't even see my reply, hasn't seen it, and never spoke to me ever again.
The
end.
Christ. I like that it has such a crisp ending, but oofity oof. So here's what I was going to say before, and one of my big lessons learned is if either one of you still has feelings for the other, you can't be friends.
Yeah.
You can't be friends until neither of you has feelings for each other.
And no one wants to hear that, do that.
Nobody wants to do that. They're like, no, but I still care about the person. No, your friendship is not going to work at all until neither of you has any romantic feelings left for the other.
Yeah.
And you got to sometimes listen to Auntie Liz. Sometimes you have to go cold turkey and not speak to someone for 6 months, and then you can pick up a friendship because then the feelings are gone.
It's
fucking awful. It hurts.
Yeah.
And you just want to keep the person in your life so that, you don't feel abandoned or rejected, or, you're like, but this is a good person. Why would I not keep them in my life? Because it's torturing you.
Yep, exactly.
Because you are hurting your own fucking feelings if you are still friends with someone that you harbor a flame for still.
Spot on. If kids is a question mark on the table, what you have to be 100% yes before
it's a fuck yes. Kids has to be a fuck
kids.
yes. It can't be a maybe. It can't be a someday.
Don't talk yourself into it like,
if you are not the baby birthing party, because that person is on a timeline that you are not on.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you are not the one who wants to carry a child, then you are not on that same timeline.
You're not going to, don't try and talk yourself into it, or, I'm sure I'll be convinced. No, if it's on the table, like it was with Alex, better off saying no than yeah. Right.
And I really, as I said at the time, I like the fact that you are conscious of the fact that you might be wasting her time, because
very good.
It's all well and good to see where a relationship goes, but if someone has a non-negotiable, I want children, and they're already at the point where it's going to be more difficult for them to do that, you need to say to them, if you want kids, it's not going to be with me in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Don't waste people's time if you know they have non-negotiable goals just because they make you feel lovely and hearts and flowers. And
I
all
agree.
Yeah.
And Alex, if anything, what did you learn from your experience? Sometimes you don't have to learn anything. Sometimes you can just be a big idiot and not learn anything in life. I don't think every...
You calling Alex a big
No,
idiot?
I'm talking, not today, but to everyone at
Not to
home,
his
you
face.
sometimes you can just be a big dummy and it's okay.
I don't know. I feel like I was the villain of this, you know? Zane's nodding.
Was he? I didn't even see that.
I thought it was like,
think he just
yeah.
moved his head.
Oh, sorry, Zane. I'm very precious about this.
I feel like the situation is the villain.
Yeah, I agree. There's no right.
I don't think anyone's a bad
baddie.
guy. Like I think potentially, maybe you let it go on a little bit longer than you should have. And I think you should have communicated, you both should have communicated a little bit earlier about whether you were, yes, we're in, or yes, we're seeing how this goes. Because I feel like she was like, yes, we're in. And you were like, yes, we're seeing how this goes. And that's two very different
Yeah.
platforms from which to spring. But other than that lack of earlier communication, I think it's a situation sucks.
And I think
Really?
from her, I think there was more villainy from some things she did.
Yeah,
in
like
her, in the
telling
way she
telling
spoke.
you that her
Yeah.
friends hated you is just rude. Buying you clothes because you didn't look nice. She was sad that you didn't look nice enough for her friends. That's really fucking rude.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, you didn't do anything like that. So
I think I absolve you in
the
that.
court is fair.
Yeah.
standing, not guilty.
I think those things, she might not be a terrible person, but those two things were shitty.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree there.
What's odd is that she's, not even seen any of the messages I sent her, but she is amongst the first to see any TikToks I post.
Sorry, messages. How many did you send her, Alex?
Well, I can read them to you.
Yeah, I don't need you to
we
read
don't
them. I
need
just need you to
verbatim.
tell me how many you sent.
Have you sent 50 in the past?
That she
week,
has not
or has
replied
she
to,
sent two?
Alex?
Have you sent 2?
I sent 3 in
No.
response to hers. Then I
No.
Oh
sent
no, not a then.
3
Oh, stop saying words.
that
Alex.
evening. Then I sent
Alex.
Alex?
You're killing me, baby, my friend. You're
and then the
killing
next
me.
day,
You're killing me.
I sent 2
You're
that were
killing
just
me.
like, "Hey, I know you're
You
busy."
are hurting me.
And then I sent
I'm
one.
crying,
I
Alex.
sent one an hour later. I was like, "Oh, I have an anxious attachment style." And then
You think
next,
he's doing this for a bit?
the
But I'm
next
sitting
day-
next to him with his open computer, and it's just all a blue
like
text.
2 weeks later,
Alex,
and then
what's going on?
like a month later. The last one I sent was, "Hey, I hope you're okay. I'm actually getting pretty worried."
No.
Because she didn't post much on social media. And I was like, maybe she's fucking dead. Like, I genuinely thought she was dead.
Boundaries, Alex.
And then,
to quit a podcast more.
and then
I
she,
literally just rubbed my eyes so
I'm
hard that I'm
crying.
seeing stars
I'm
right now.
crying. You've got I've got
Alex.
tears in my eyes. What are you doing to
I got
us?
a new lesson learned.
We were so we got to do the whole thing again, right? What did we learn? Alex, how
If
many
you don't get a response after, I'm going to be generous and say 3 texts over the course of 48 hours.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
So if you send 3 because you're the type of person that sends 1 sentence per text, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you then wait 24 hours and send another,
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's no good.
no, they're setting a boundary. They don't have the ability to say to you, please stop, because sometimes that's difficult. And yes, they should, but that doesn't always happen. If something is wrong, they will tell the people in their network, in their close network of friends, and
Yes.
those friends will help them. Brisbane guy is not going to help Melbourne lady if she's lying in a ditch somewhere, no matter
That's
how
right.
many times you text her.
Yes, I've got an ex-girlfriend and we were together for a very long time, but she now, in a different life, has different people to talk to in a relationship.
Yeah,
like,
and
I
it's
care
not
for her.
your-
It's not my job
And,
anymore.
and I know
She's
that was probably only the last out of the 50 or so texts that you sent, saying, I'm genuinely worried about you. But like, just no, you're better than that, Alex. You are better than sending that. No, don't shake your fucking head at me, both Alex and Zane.
I reckon we
You
just
are
take
better
this
than
off
that,
air.
Alex. I know you may not think that you're better than that, but you are better than quadruple million texting.
Ladies and
get
gentlemen,
anxious.
we're gonna call it here so that we can bully.
If you get anxious,
address
here's
this
one thing I
off-air.
will tell readers, right? And this is one thing that's worked for me in the past. If you get anxious, because I used to be the type of person that would have to have my phone physically fucking taken away from me in my early 20s when I was texting someone. If you get anxious, find a friend that you can send all of the texts that you wish you could send this person to. Or write them all in notes and don't fucking send them.
Get it out of
So
your
either
system.
get it out so that someone can say to you, you're being insane, I love you, but calm the fuck down. Or in a thing where you can't accidentally fucking send it. Because people don't owe you that attention if you want it.
Yes.
And also, like, I can relate. I can hardcore relate. I have done this before. I remember one of my boyfriends in my early 20s. I was bawling my eyes out on my bed and my flatmate literally came into my room and took my Nokia phone off me and put it in the fucking freezer where I couldn't find it. Because I was texting 3, 4, 5 times going, just tell me everything's fine. Just reassure me. Just make me not feel like a fuckwit. And I was making more of a fuckwit of myself with every text. So sorry to end on a Debbie Downer,
No,
but
it's
yes,
okay.
Find a friend to send all that shit to. I know at least now 3 or 4 friends who I could send my insane messages to, and they'd be like, I'm really sorry. One of them would be like, I'm really sorry you're hurting, which is partly what I need. The other one would be like, stop it, you stupid fucking muppet, which is also what I need. And the other one would be like, do you want me to bring over KFC, which is also what I need, you know? Like, find people that you can let your crazy out to, rather than somebody who, that's all I'll say. I'm done.
Here.
My rant is over. I love
Ladies
you,
and-
Alex. I really do, but you're better than that many messages.
Thank you.
We'll take this off air and kindly berate Alex some more. Ladies and gentlemen, and all and sundry, thank you for tuning in to Ghosts of Boyfriends Past. We really love having you, and we love doing this show. So the fact that we get to do it more is just wonderful. Elizabeth and I, thank you for that. Send your stories into ghostsofboyfriendspast@gmail.com.
Any of our social medias, or if you want to actually be a guest, we've got a form that we haven't talked about in a little while on that'snotcanon.com/Ghosts of Boyfriends Past, and you can be a guest on the show and have me berate you for your text messaging,
and
just like Alex.
As the music fades out, we're going to rip into Alex some more. Just a little bit.
Okay,
Just
one
a
more
little,
thing,
just-
Alex. One more thing.